The world believes the heist era has ended, but whispers echo through underground channels hinting that the professor left unfinished plans hidden across Europe. Tokyo's familiar voice returns in narration, reflecting on the ghosts that never let them rest. Rio, struggling with trauma and identity, receives an encrypted message containing coordinates only the professor would use. Lisbon senses danger but feels compelled to follow the trail. Marseille tracks the signal to a secret vault beneath Lisbon, and the old crew reunites with unease, knowing that peace was never meant for them. Inside the vault, they find handwritten manuscripts outlining a mysterious contingency plan titled Operation Lazarus. It's designed as a last resort safeguard if the world ever turns against them again. Lisbon's hands shake as she recognizes the professor's style, meticulous, cold, and heartbreakingly final. Denver wants nothing to do with another operation, but Rio feels they owe the professor more than silence. Their debate is cut short when an unknown strike team ambushes them with military precision, forcing them into the underground sewer system. The crew barely escapes, shaken by how much the attackers knew about their tactics. Marseille identifies the attackers as a covert European task force led by the ruthless commander Aria Voss. Her motive is simple: erase the professor's legacy and wipe out the crew once and for all. The team retreats to an old safe house once used by Berlin, its dusty remnants stirring forgotten emotions. Lisbon realizes someone tipped the task force off, which means there's a mole somewhere close. Despite fear and anger brewing, they decode Operation Lazarus and discover their next destination: a high-security data treasury in Brussels. If Voss retrieves the data first, every detail of their identities and past operations will be exposed. The crew begins scouting Brussels in deep disguise. Stockholm infiltrates the corporate sector to obtain blueprints, while Marseille blends into the criminal underworld for intel. Lisbon studies the guards' habits with the same obsessive thoroughness the professor once had. Denver befriends a young technician who unknowingly reveals crucial details, and Rio slips into the city's cybersecurity network through ghost accounts. For a brief moment, they rediscover the rhythm that once made them unstoppable. But the stakes rise when Commander Voss, analytical and merciless, anticipates their every step with frightening accuracy. She's the dark mirror of the professor, genius without restraint. Their first infiltration attempt goes wrong when unexpected security upgrades appear, suggesting a traitor among them. Denver narrowly avoids a deadly trap, and Stockholm becomes increasingly paranoid. Lisbon tries to hold the group together, while Rio discovers a hidden encryption layer that wasn't shown on any blueprint. As they dig deeper, Lisbon deciphers one manuscript and realizes Operation Lazarus was never meant to be used. It was a farewell message from the professor himself. His words warn that the greatest threat they'll ever face will come from within. The revelation shakes the crew to their core and sparks suspicion among them. To regain control, they simulate the heist inside an abandoned warehouse, rediscovering fragments of trust through muscle memory. Denver's humor slowly returns, lowering the tension. But Marseille soon confirms Voss is preparing an imminent strike, forcing them to move earlier than planned. At dawn, the real operation begins. Lisbon leads the outer team, Rio and Stockholm manage digital infiltration, and Denver navigates the labyrinth of corridors inside the treasury. A misstep nearly trips an alarm, but Denver's instincts save them. Outside, Voss's drones begin circling, sensing anomalies. Inside the vault, Rio finally reaches the main server and discovers the professor's secret archive, evidence of global corruption, corporate crimes, and political conspiracies. The truth hits them hard. The task force isn't seeking justice. They want to bury the evidence forever. Stockholm copies the files while Rio erases traces, but the lights suddenly shift to red as Voss initiates a full security lockdown. Smoke grenades fill the corridors, and her operatives sweep the building with lethal precision. The crew retreats into a maintenance shaft, but debris collapses part of it, separating Lisbon and Denver from the others. Lisbon orders Rio to continue without her, but Denver refuses to abandon her. Voss tracks their movements through thermal sensors, turning the treasury into a battlefield. Stockholm, Rio, and Marseille push toward the extraction route, while Lisbon and Denver fight their way through narrow passages. Lisbon drops the professor's manuscripts during a firefight and risks her life retrieving them. A malfunctioning blast door gives them a miracle escape, leaving Voss seconds away from capturing them. Meanwhile, the others make it to the rooftop, only to face swarming helicopters. Rio hacks the rooftop signal tower to disrupt Voss's drones, while Stockholm begins transmitting the professor's archive to secure decentralized servers. Marseille sets explosives to create diversions, and despite the chaos, a sense of purpose washes over them. They're protecting the professor's truth. Lisbon and Denver burst onto the rooftop through a hidden stairwell just as Voss's forces arrive. Marseille detonates the smoke charges, allowing the team to jump to a lower building. They crash onto a balcony, bruising themselves but surviving long enough to flee across rooftops. At a safe house outside Brussels, they watch as the professor's archive spreads across the internet, exposing corruption worldwide. Lisbon realizes their mission has evolved. They're no longer running a heist but igniting a movement. Voss, humiliated and enraged, vows to end them. With tension still simmering, Rio studies the manuscripts again and uncovers one last clue leading them to a remote monastery. There, a monk reveals he was once the professor's confidant. The professor had created one last invention, a predictive algorithm that maps injustice systems worldwide. He believed one more heist would be necessary, not for gold but for liberation. As night falls, Voss discovers their location and invades the monastery with her elite unit. The crew prepares for a final stand, using the ancient structure to their advantage. Denver disables one of Voss's armored vehicles. Stockholm protects Lisbon as she secures the algorithm device, and Rio battles Voss's hackers in a digital showdown. The clash becomes more than physical. It becomes ideological, a war between control and freedom. In a final counterattack, the crew traps Voss's operatives in the monastery's lower chambers and escapes through underground tunnels revealed by the monk. They emerge onto a quiet hillside at sunrise, exhausted but alive. The world is destabilized, governments are panicking, and the professor's final vision has ignited a revolution. Lisbon breathes deeply, declaring that the world is finally ready for what comes next. Rio closes the last manuscript and softly says the professor never wanted to be immortal. He wanted change. The crew walks toward an uncertain horizon, united once more, knowing the story of the heist isn't over, and perhaps never will be.